Good evening, everyone. Today we will start with electron paramagnetic resonance, which is interchangeably used with electron spin resonance. Uh, uh, the basic principle is same, but there is a slight technical difference between this EPR and ESR spectroscopy. Okay, so just like any spectroscopic technique, over here also we will be having some radiation which is having an energy of h mu. It will be irradiated onto a sample, and the interaction of this h mu, this EMR, electromagnetic radiation, with the sample will result in the genesis of another electromagnetic radiation which will be analyzed. Okay, the EPR and the ESR spectroscopy, it is similar to NMR spectroscopy, okay, which we have discussed in our last chapter. Okay, in NMR, what we have seen, so before going into the NMR, we know that when we talk about samples, they are basically molecules, and in the molecule we have the atoms, and within the atoms we have protons and neutrons, which forms the nuclei, and around this nuclei we have electrons, okay, which moves. Now the movement of this electron is in two ways. It moves on its axis, and also it moves across this orbit. Okay, so there is two types of spinning, uh, spinning on its axis and the orbital spinning. Okay, unlike in proton we were what we discussed that the protons mainly moves on its axis. Okay, so over here what we did is that in NMR spectroscopy we have the samples, we had the electromagnetic radiation which was made incident onto the sample in bursts. That means for some time it will generate the radiation. We will make some radiation incident onto the sample, and in the second instance we will stop it. And during the stop period, the sample which will be absorbing this energy, it will be releasing this energy. Okay, and this energy is an EMR, and this energy is being analyzed by the detector or captured by the detector. Okay, over here what we also had a magnetic field which was being what you call varied from low to high. Similar to this, over here in EPR or ESR spectroscopy, we talk about the movement of the electrons, okay, and the magnetic field or magnetic moments which are being generated due to the movement of the electrons either on its axis or on the orbital. Okay, now there is a difference between the EMR which is being used in NMR. In NMR we have talked about that RF radio frequency electromagnetic radiations, they were used for the analysis, whereas for the electrons microwave radiations microwave radiations, they are being used for the EPR or ESR spectroscopy. Okay, with this basics, I would move forward, and the rest of the principles, it is similar to that of the NMR. Okay, so with this basics, I will move forward over here. So electron, it is a negatively charged particle, we all know, and it is having a mass. Okay, and it mainly consists of two kinds of movements. Okay, so one is spinning around the nucleus, which brings orbital magnetic moment, and the other one is spinning around its own axis, which brings spin magnetic moment. Okay, so the electron, it basically generates the orbital magnetic moment and spin magnetic moments. Okay, because of the two types of the movement. So one is, it is moving on its axis, so it will generate its own magnetic field. Again, this electron, it is moving around the nucleus. Okay, so suppose this is the nucleus, it is moving around the nucleus, and that would result in another magnetic field, and they are regarded as either this one, when it is moving across the orbit and generating the magnetic field, it is called the orbital magnetic moment, and when it is moving on the on its axis and it is generating the magnetic fields, it is called spin magnetic moment. Herein S is equal to half, which is the spin magnetic moment, we also call it spin quantum number. Okay, and the magnetic components associated over here is ms equals to half and ms equal to minus half. So it is just similar to our proton. In proton we were having the proton NMR. In proton NMR we were having the protons were moving on its axis. So we were having the spin quantum number at s equals to half and magnetic components as plus half and minus half. On the contrary, if you see the orbital magnetic moment, it has values. Orbital quantum quantum number, it is equal to 0, 1, 2 and so on. Okay, and the magnetic components associated with this movement is minus n, minus I plus 1, I minus 1, I. Okay, the magnetic moment of the molecule is primarily contributed by the unpaired electron's spin magnetic moment. Okay, so we all know, in just like in the protons we have discussed, if there are there are protons which are paired and they are moving, they will be arranged in such a way such that they have opposite spinning attributes, and that would result in the cancellation of the magnetic moments. So this is a localized phenomenon. Just a minute. हेलो, हाँ जी बोलिए. जूम का था, ये गूगल मीट का है शायद. हाँ 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 ठीक है. हाँ 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 मिल. हाँ कितना 11 बजे ज्वाइन करना. ऑल ऑफ अस शुड ज्वाइन टुगेदर. 3 लोगों का देखा मैंने. ओके 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 थैंक यू. Okay, so here there is a formation of localized magnetic fields, and these localized fields are cancelled. Okay, similarly in electron also, the electron spins, they appear as they appear in pairs, and when they move and when they are placed over here, these localized magnetic fields which are being generated, they try to cancel each other. Okay. Now, just like in NMR, what I said, there will be a very few amount of protons which will be available, okay, which will be available and which will be in excess in the low energy state, okay, and those protons, they will give the NMR signals. Similarly, over here, for a molecule to show EPR or ESR signal, we should have unpaired electrons. Okay, we should have unpaired electrons, and the magnetic moment, spin magnetic moment created by these unpaired electrons will be used for the analysis. Okay, so over here, the total spin angular momentum ms, it is given by under root of s plus 1 h by 2 pi. What is s? S is spin quantum number. Okay, s is spin quantum number. Okay, and h is Planck's constant. Okay, we all know. Any doubt till now? No? Okay, good. Now, in the z direction, the component of the total spin angular momentum can only assume two possible values, ms of plus half and minus half. Why? We all know, because in the z direction, why we are talking about z direction? We are considering that we will apply a magnetic field B0 in the z direction, just like in the NMR spectroscopy. Okay, and we will be having an axis something like this. Okay, now EPR or electron spin resonance spectroscopy is a method for studying materials with unpaired electrons like radicals, radical cations, and molecules which have electrons in the triplet state. Okay, so EPR deals with the study of electron spins that are excited using microwave radiation. This is the important thing. In NMR we used radio frequency, and here in EPR we used microwave radiations. So in the presence of an external field with strength B0, here I have shown B0, the electron's magnetic moment align itself either anti-parallel or parallel to the field, each alignment having a specific energy. Okay, each alignment having a specific energy. So if you see, the net magnetization vectors will be in the x direction in the presence of the magnetic field B0, and on the opposite direction also we will be having some state. So this is the low energy state, this is the high energy state. So low energy state we talked about alpha, high energy state it is beta because it is against the magnetic field, right? Now these will basically cancel each other. We will be having some extra magnetic moment which are being generated by these unpaired electrons, which is favoring the magnetic field, which is in the direction of the magnetic field, and these magnetic moments will be used for the EPR or ESR spectroscopy. Am I clear? Anyone who has any problem?
Yes, sir.
No? Okay. So energy over here, E, it is given by ms multiplied Ge, which is a constant and it is regarded as Landis factor. Okay. and G is the electron so-called G factor, and for a free electron Ge is 2.0023, okay, multiplied by mu b. Mu b is Bohr magneton, sorry, and it is given by EH by 4 pi Me, okay, multiplied by B0, okay. The separation between the lower and the upper state is given by delta E Ge mu b B0, okay. So for unpaired free electrons, this equation implies, since both Ge and mu b are constant, that the splitting of the energy levels is directly proportional to the magnetic field strength. So similar to the NMR, see over here also we are getting the same thing. You have the applied magnetic field, and then you have the energy difference at B equals to 0. Both the types of the electrons, they are present over here, okay. And then as you start increasing the magnetic field, the energy difference between these two states, ms and ms minus half, it increases, okay. So this is called degenerate to non-degenerate energy levels. Degenerate means at B equals to 0, and non-degenerate energy levels is as we increase the magnetic field, this levels ms equals to minus half and ms equal to half, whatever the energy levels are being generated, it is called non-degenerate energy levels, okay. And the line where we have the energy component when B is equal to 0, that central line, it is called the Barry center. Now let us compare these two diagrams. Let's see over here, when we are having B0, okay, when we are having B0, what is happening? North pole, south pole, north to south, okay. So when it is moving over here, we have seen North pole, South pole, and when we have this thing, we will be having South and North, okay. So if we take out this thing, North, South, it will be South, North. Just for the sake of understanding, I am drawing this one, okay, just for making you understand what is happening basically. North, South. So towards the south you will be having the north. So this is north and south. This is matching, and then this is matching. But we were talking about this one. Okay, we are talking about this one for the protons, right? So what we are getting now, when electron moves, we have discussed, if we apply the this right hand thumb rule, where the proton is moving, our current is moving in this direction and our magnetic field is like this. If we apply that rule and say that the charged particle is moving over here, so the proton should be in this, the magnetic field should be in this direction, right? We have discussed. So we are considering that the positive particle, it is moving in this direction. Let me. So the positive particle, it is moving in this direction. That means current is moving in this direction. So our magnetic field will be like this. Our north pole will be over here, right? North over here, south over here, right? Now, in this case, what is happening? In this case, what is happening? We are talking about electrons. Okay, so it will be south will become north, north will become south. Okay. So when we are having this thing in the counterclockwise direction, the magnetic field or the magnetic moments which will be generated, it will be opposite to this one. Okay. Now, due to this reason, if you see the low energy state, okay, it is having minus of half. In this case, it was having plus of half because of this configuration. Are you getting my point? This configuration, right? So our magnetic field is there, our magnetic moment is in this way. When our proton is moving in the it is having a magnetic moment of plus half. But in the case of electrons, this ms is equal to minus of half, and the high energy state, it is plus half. On the contrary, in NMR we are having minus of half. Okay, so this you have to keep in mind. This is happening because in the NMR we were talking about proton was moving, and in EPR or ESR we are talking about the movement of the electrons, which are the negatively charged systems. Okay, so if we consider in this right hand thumb rule, current is moving in the top direction, our electrons should move in the opposite direction. The charge is moving in the opposite direction, and hence uh, if you correlate this one, you will be having the opposite thing. Okay. An unpaired electron can change its electron spin by either absorbing or emitting a photon of energy h mu, such that the resonance condition Larmor frequency h mu equals to del E is obeyed. This leads to the fundamental equation of EPR spectroscopy, delta E equals to GE mu B B0. What it is telling basically? This is X, Y, Z. I will not talk about this how the spins are being generated, electron spin, they are creating the magnetic moment and all these things. On the contrary, what I will talk about, I will be talking about the magnetic moments or net magnetization vector what has been created. Because in that way it will be easier for you guys to correlate both the NMR and this thing in a similar manner, and you will be able to remember those things. Okay. So B0, when you apply the B0, they try to move, and as we said that there will be a net magnetization vector due to the spinning of the electrons, which will be favoring the B0. In the direction of the B0 we will be having the net magnetization vector which will be created by the spinning electrons, just like what we discussed in the NMR. Okay, so we will just talk about the magnetic field, because in magnetic field basically they are creating magnetic field, both of them, proton and electrons, they are creating magnetic field, and that is resulting in all these phenomena. Okay, so what is happening? If you see the net magnetization vector, it is in the z direction. Okay, now when you are applying h mu, which is in the microwave region, it is flipping to the high energy state. Now when I am blocking this h mu to this sample, what it will do? It will try to come back to its original position, which is parallel to the B0 component, and over here during this flipping process it will give up the radiation. Okay, now since it has absorbed microwave radiation, in EPR spectroscopy we have talked about that microwaves are being used, so it will also release microwave radiations, and those microwave radiations are being detected by the microwave detector. Okay. The great majority of EPR measurements are made with microwaves in the region of 9000 to 10,000 megahertz, or you can say 9 to 10 gigahertz region. Okay, with fields corresponding to about 3500 Gauss, which corresponds to 0.35 Tesla. A typical ESR spectra, it appears like this. Okay, it appears like this. Okay, however, this is a very broad, the absorbance what you get, it is a very broad this thing, and hence what happens is that the first derivative of the above signal, the absorption signal, it is used for the analysis, for the purpose of the analysis. Okay, now depending upon the type of material, we can have a singlet peak, just like in NMR we can have doublet peak, we can have triplet peak. Okay, and when we talk about the Larmor frequency, over here this is given by the Larmor frequency, omega is equal to adiamagnetic ratio for the electrons multiplied by B. Okay, now what we said here, in we have showed the net magnetization vector, but this magnetization vector, it is precessing. Okay, it is forming an orbit like thing, and it is moving in that way. Okay, now when it is in a particular magnetic field, okay, a particular frequency of the electromagnetic radiation will be required to flip this magnetic moment to the high energy state. So the upper one is the alpha state and beta one is the lower one is the beta state. Alpha state is the low energy state and the lower magnetization thing is the beta state, which is the high energy state. Okay, so only at Larmor frequency, which is dependent on the magnetic field, applied magnetic field, the molecules will absorb the energy and go to the high energy state. And when we are stopping this external microwave radiations onto the sample, this magnetic moment, it goes back to its low energy state, and during that process it again releases the microwave radiations. Okay, now why we get a broad peak over here? This is because the relaxation time of the excited electrons is very short. Hence, the peak of the EPR signals are broad. This is because the relaxation time is directly proportional to the width of the EPR signal. Okay. Now, what is the relaxation time basically? The time needed for this magnetization vector or the electrons, whatever you say, to go from the high energy state to the low energy state. Okay, that is related to the what you call this relaxation time. Okay, so it is usually the 33.33%. So if you look over here in Z direction, when you are seizing this h mu, then from a high it will go to the low state. So what it is done is that from high energy it will be coming to the low energy state. Okay, so this is mz and this is time. Okay, so the net magnetization, it will decay like this. Now at say if this is the 100% this thing energy, then at 100 minus 33.33 that accounts to be around 67%. That time is taken as the relaxation time. So for electrons, it is the relaxation time, it is very fast. Okay, and since it is very fast, the peak what you observe, it is a broad peak, and to compensate for that, the first derivative is applied. That means you apply a first derivative what you call mathematical operator on the absorbance curve, which will give you a somewhat sharp peak, which may then be analyzed. Okay, so just like NMR spectroscopy, EPR spectra can also be generated either by varying the microwave frequency which is incident on the sample, or holding the magnetic field constant, or doing the reverse. Sorry, varying the microwave frequency incident on the sample while holding the magnetic field constant, or doing the reverse. In NMR, what we said, we increase the magnetic field, okay, in this direction, and correspondingly we fix the radio frequency HV. Okay, so similarly over here also you can go for, you keep the magnetic field increasing, and you keep the microwave frequency constant. Okay, in practice it is usually the frequency that is kept constant, right? In other words, the paramagnetic centers such as free radicals is exposed to microwaves at a fixed frequency. Okay, and over here you get sharp peaks. Okay, by increasing the external magnetic field, the gap between ms plus half and ms minus half energy state is widened until it matches the energy of the microwaves. At this point, the unpaired electrons can move between their two spin states. That means at when you are increasing the magnetic field, when you reach to because you have kept this frequency constant, so when your omega E, gamma E B, this equation will be satisfied, then these unpaired electrons will move to the higher energy state. Okay, since there typically are more electrons in the lower state due to the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution, there is a net absorption of energy, and it is this absorption that is monitored and converted into a spectrum. Okay, so in this thing, in NMR, what we were doing, we were measuring this output radiation. Over here what they are telling, the net absorption of energy, and it is this absorption that is monitored into a spectrum. Okay, so how much this thing is being absorbed by the sample, that is being detected. Okay, the EPL spectrum, it is usually represented either as absorption spectrum, which I already showed, or as the first derivative of the absorption spectrum. The most common way to record the continuous wave EPR spectra is the first derivative of the absorption spectrum, and I have told you why over here in this case. Okay. The microwave frequency of 93.882 MHz, the predicted resonance occurs at a magnetic field of about B0, which is equal to h mu by Ge mu b. Okay, it is equal to 0.3350 Tesla, which comes down around to be 3350 Gauss. Okay. The hyperfine coupling constant of the nucleus is directly related to the spectral line spacing. In the simplest cases, it is essentially the spacing itself. Okay. So what was the hyperfine coupling constant? So in NMR we have seen, if you get a peak, there may be two additional peaks around this central peak, okay, due to the presence of the neighboring hydrogen atoms. So this distance, it is called the hyperfine coupling constant. Similarly, over here also, in the case of this electron spin resonance also, we get this hyperfine splitting constant over here, and we will be discussing that later on. Okay. Two common mechanisms by which electrons and nuclei interact. Now we are coming to this electrons and nuclei, how they interact. First one is the Fermi contact interaction. These are isotropic interaction, and it is independent of sample orientation in the magnetic field. Okay. Fermi contact interaction, it is an isotropic interaction, and it is independent of the sample orientation in the magnetic field. And by dipolar interaction, which are anisotropic in nature and dependent on sample orientation in a magnetic field. Okay. Now spin polarization, it is a third mechanism for interactions between an unpaired electron and a nuclear spin, being specially important for pi electron organic radicals such as benzene radical anion. Okay. So what we get from here, there are two common mechanisms: Fermi contact interaction, second is dipolar interaction. One is isotropic, another is anisotropic. Then the third one is the spin polarization interaction, where it happens in compounds where we have pi electrons. Okay. The symbols A or capital A is used for isotropic hyperfine coupling constant, while B, it is used for anisotropic hyperfine coupling constant. Okay. The G factor, I have already told you that it is regarded as the Landé factor. So the knowledge of the G factor can give information about a paramagnetic centered electronic structure. An unpaired electron responds not only to the spectrometer's magnetic field B0, but also to any local magnetic fields of atoms or molecules. Okay. So what are those? Those are like the signals from the protons, say H1 proton. Okay. If they are creating magnetic field, they may also interact over here with the electron spinning and may affect the electrons, the magnetization field created by the what you call electrons. Okay. It is just the opposite. When we are talking about the NMR, we are talking about the protons. When they are moving, they were creating the magnetic field, but if there was electrons, they were creating a magnetic shielding on the magnetization on the proton, which was lowering the magnetic effect. Okay. here also the effect so here also when you talk about the electrons, because they are present in a similar environment, so if electrons are having some effect on the protons, then protons will also have a similar effect on the electrons, right? It's a two-way process, right? So the effective field EFF, that means the effective magnetic field experienced by an electrons is thus given by BF equals to B0 1 minus sigma, where sigma includes the effect of local fields. Okay, sigma can be either positive or negative. Okay. Do you have any questions till now?
Yes, sir. Now,
Yeah, yeah, no, it's okay. It's better.
sir, I was asking in which case that sigma will be positive and in which it will be negative.
It depends on what you call molecular arrangement. Okay, so in what way the protons what they are generating, whether it is increasing this magnetic field, total magnetic field, or you can say this be effective, or it is reducing. It all depends on the molecular arrangement. Okay, so we cannot pinpoint in what case it will increase or in what case it will decrease. It is all dependent on how these protons they are present, how they are behaving, and it changes from atoms to atoms. Okay. So as such, we cannot predict in this way. Okay. So next we come to the wave band. So there are different microwave wave bands over here. Okay. However, EPR experiments they are conducted at X and Q bands to a certain extent. So this is the X band and this is the Q band. So most of the EPR experiments they are being conducted over here. So please remember these information about the X band and the Q band, especially the X band. Okay. So why? This is because at these bands we have the ready availability of the necessary microwave components which originally were developed for the radar applications. Okay. A second reason for widespread X and Q band measurements is that the electromagnets can reliably generate fields up to 1 Tesla. Okay. So see, Q band is having approximately 1 Tesla and X band is 0.33 Tesla, and that is why it is done. Now, variation in the EPR spectrum of the tempo nitrooxide radical as the microwave band, that means the energy of excitation changes. Okay, that means as you go from low frequency to high frequency, if you look over here in the first case and if you compare it to the lowest one, if you see some of the peaks which are present over here, they are not at all present in L band. Here means the peaks which are present in D band, they are not present in L band. And slowly, when you are increasing the what you call you are increasing the this frequency, okay. So higher frequency means higher effective magnetic field, okay. So basically when you are increasing the magnetic field to a higher level, what is happening? The energy separation, degeneration, this the what do you call this non-degenerate energy levels. This separation it is increasing further and further. Okay, and due to that reason, the interaction of these electrons with the other what you call other magnetic components like protons which are present within the atom itself, how they are interacting and their interaction within them, they are also getting what do you call, they are also getting uh, uh, visualized. Okay. However, as I said, that most of the things, EPR experiments, they are conducted at X band and Q band. But in general, as you increase the frequency component, there is an improved resolution of the spectra. Okay. Now suppose I have H plus hydrogen cation radical. Okay. So what will happen? Initially, see, we are increasing the B. So when we are increasing the B, there is a splitting of the energy level, and we have Ms minus half and plus half. In this case, we have Ms minus half due to the proton. It is having a proton also, right? So due to that also, there will be this proton, it is having Mi plus half and minus half. So the lower energy level is minus half, Ms minus half, Mi plus half, and then Ms minus half and Mi plus half. So if you see this one, the arrangement is, see, in this direction. Okay, in this direction, plus half, minus half. Okay, and for this electron, it was minus half, it was plus half, right? So when initially it was broken, minus half, plus half, this is for the electrons, right? Then again, when this hypersplitting is happening, what is happening? That hypersplitting is due to the protons, right? In proton, Mi is, the lower energy state is plus half, the higher is minus half. Okay, and over here both of these plus half, and in between, if you see, this is repeated over here and the higher is repeated over here. So when you draw, you remember the lower portion. Okay, when you are drawing this hypersplitting thing. Okay, so it will go as the lower as the usual splitting, or what we did in the NMR, and in the top level you just reciprocate it, minus half to minus half, and this to this. So we will be having one transition from minus half state to minus half state, and one transition of this Mi of minus half to minus half, and the another state Mi plus half to plus half. Okay, there will be two transitions. So at B0, that means over here we are having a single energy difference over here. Okay, however, if we increase the magnetic field, we will be having one energy difference and two energy difference. Okay, now see, there are two energy differences, two peaks, they are present, and that is the doublet, and it is called the hyperfine splitting basically, right? Now similarly, if you have two protons, see, minus half, plus half. Okay, now over here, if you see, these are Mi components, these are not this Ms component. I have just written the Mi components, half, minus half, half, minus half, and the middle one is half, minus half. So this is minus half, this is plus half, and in between you have half and minus half. Okay. Similarly, if you go over here, minus half, over here, minus half, and then from here to here, you have plus half. Now the transition will be happening between these two. Then the next delta is between these two, and the final one is the upper 2. Okay. Now, what should be the peak? So let's see. If you see, we have identified that there will be 3 peaks. Okay. Now there will be 3 peaks. Now what should be the ratio? So if you see, the first one is the high energy state. In the high energy state, we can have the protons. We are having 2 protons. Both of them are in the same direction. In the low energy state, we are having in this direction magnetic this thing, and the possibility in the middle level is high low or low high. So what is the ratio? 1:2:1. So number of probability of occurrence of this protons is 1. Over here probability is 2, and over here the probability is again 1. Okay. So we will be getting 3 peaks. We have identified from here. We will be getting 3 peaks, and how they would be arranged? This would be the B0. This would be having a 2, 1, and 1 height. Okay. Now for CH3 radical, we are having 3 protons. In this case, if you see, high, low, and then we are having 2 high, 1 low, 2 high, 1 low, 2 high, and 1 low. Similarly, 2 low, 1 high, 2 low, 1 high, and this thing. So how the this will happen? Splitting will happen. 1:3:3:1. Okay, 1:3:3:1. So this is for the bare electron. You'll be getting a single peak. But if there is a 1 spin half nucleus, 1:1. 2 spin half nucleus is there, 1:2:1. 3 nucleus is there, 1:3:3:1. Okay, in this fashion it will go. So we are just generalizing. And in our previous case also we have talked about this thing, the Pascal's triangle. Now this is the triangle when n is equal to 0, 1, n equals to 1, 1, 1, 1 to 1. Now how you are getting? Suppose this is 1. Now what we do is that, say this 1, how it is happening? 0 plus 1, we are getting 1. Then again we take it in this fashion, 1 plus 0, 1. When we come down over here, we will be having 0 plus 1, 1. Then we are having 1 plus 1, 2. Then we are having 1 plus 0, that is 1. Next, when we come over here, 1 plus 0, this is 1 plus 2, 3. Then this is 2 plus 1, 3, and then 1 plus 0. Similarly, we get 0, 3 plus 1, 4, 3 plus 3, 6, 3 plus 1, 4, and 1, 1 plus 0, 1. So, depending upon how many protons they are in the vicinity of that bare electron, you can have the splitting of the electrons as per the Pascal's triangle. Okay. So tomorrow we will be discussing the other portions. Okay, we are already done with time.